Hello again, everybody. It's Todd Staruch, the Horror Nerd, here at New Jersey HorrorCon and Film Festival. It's Friday, the first day of the convention. We're winding down a little bit, but I am still having a blast. So many great people here. Speaking of great people, I have the privilege of standing here with Mr. Alvin Alexis. Alvin, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm having a great time.
Yeah.
So many people here from so many great movies, and Night of the Demons is a classic. It's one of my favorites. But you were also in a very funny movie that I loved. I'm looking at it back here, Brother from Another Planet.
Oh, John Sayles.
I just love that movie.
Yes.
The horror versus comedy. Do you have a preference? Like, are you a horror guy, like, as far as fans go?
I actually, I've been doing a lot of work in the theater and also film and TV for a good long time. And this was my very first Hollywood film. And at the time, when I was doing it, I was not aware of the significance that my role would have in the horror genre. Being the first African-American, or being one of the first, I should say, African-American to survive a horror film.
Right.
And in those days, we were known for dying within the first several minutes of the opening of the film.
Yeah, it almost became like a cliche, like a trope.
Exactly, exactly. So I remember seeing, when I was a young man, I saw The Exorcist and Poltergeist, and I really enjoyed those films. But I can't really say I was a devoted horror fan in that regard. I enjoyed those movies, but it wasn't something that, and until when this movie came out, and then much later on, when people started coming up to me and saying, "Hey, I saw your movie," and we're talking about, 2 years, 3 years after the film came out, I was like, wow. I realized how significant horror was to that industry, and in particular, to people remembering, because the film, when it came out, it was actually not a Hollywood studio film. Right. It was released independently. So for people to be still saying, "Oh, I saw your movie," and I'm going, well, okay, it came out on VHS, it came out on DVD, it came out on cable, and that's when they really started seeing it. Right. I was like, wow, this thing has got some life that is still, people are still remembering me. And obviously, I guess the role that I played, a lot of people commented about the fact that your character I identified with. Right. And I was like, okay, thank you, because I think I would be doing the same thing if I were in that situation.
Very cool. Now, does it surprise you that the longevity that the film has, and the passion that the fans still have for it?
Absolutely. I did not think, how many decades later that we would still be talking about a film that I did back in 1987, which was released in '88. Right. And it was in 2015 when I was told about conventions. So I completely forgot about the film. Other than when people come up and say, "I saw you," I would think they would first have said, "Oh, that film that you did with what's his name, Joe Morton." Right. Brother from Another Planet. I would get a lot of that. But this was quite a surprise.
Awesome.
But I then realized how devoted the fans are to this genre, and I can appreciate that. And it's something that I'm very happy about, because it also allows myself and the other cast members to see each other on a regular basis. Right. And we're still good friends.
Very cool. Yeah. That's awesome. I love hearing that after all this time.
After all this time.
Do you have a favorite memory or, a story that you'd be willing to share from us from Night of the Demons?
It was kind of interesting. We shot it in L.A., and I just remember that the place that we shot it in, I was told it was an old supermarket or something of that sort. But it really, you walked into that, that space, and you really felt like this was something that you wouldn't want to be in by yourself. And a lot of the times, when I was, going up to the upper floors, it was like, okay, you had to kind of look around to wonder, if there was something behind that door. Right. So they did the set designer, they did a great job of creating that atmosphere. So the acting was not it was you just it lent to it. You didn't have to make up. Okay, this is supposed to be a horror house. It was, so that was wonderful, and I just think just working with that wonderful cast. I always tell the story. I'm not from Hollywood. I'm born in New York City.
Okay.
And I went to Hollywood with a friend, and it was in the middle of winter. And it was in New York, and when I got out to LA, it was like 80 degrees. And I said, now I see what the attraction is, why people never show up. I was there for a month. I thought I had an agent. It didn't work out. I finally got an agent at the end of that month. I didn't have much money. I was in a lot of financial debt. And that second month that I was there, that was February of 1987, I got, an agent. They started sending me out for auditions, and I was getting a lot of callbacks, but I wasn't booking anything. And then finally, I got a job. But at the day I got the job, that was the day I had to leave to go back, because if I stayed an extra month, I would have to pay another month's rent.
Sure.
And I didn't have the money, so I was digging deeper and deeper into a hole. And so I decided I was going to leave. And the day that I was going to leave, my agent called that morning and said, Alvin, I have an audition for you. And I said, really? She said, yes, it's this afternoon. And I said, what time? And she said, it's about 2 o'clock. And that was the time my flight was leaving.
Oh.
And I said, well, okay. So I took the information down, and I had a bit of a dilemma, because if I didn't get on that flight, okay, I would be stuck.
Right.
And that would be more debt. So I was actually going through a process. Should I do this, or should I just go and say, screw it? I got to, I call her when I get back to New York and just say, sorry. I just, had to go home and take care of some family stuff. But, as I'm on my way to the airport, it's playing in my mind, well, if you don't go, you will never know.
Right.
And so I just said, I did a U-turn. I was very close to LAX. I did a U-turn, and I went back, and I made my audition on time. And it was something that I'm very happy I did, because, it would have been woulda, shoulda, coulda.
Right.
And so, and the thing about that the agent told me was, you'll know today if you got that part, because the film was already cast.
Okay.
And the actor that they had was in a movie, and he had to shave his head, and the director did not like that look.
Okay.
Well, I never had my head shaved, so I was like, okay. So that was another thing that's on my mind. Well, it's going to be a quick decision, and sure enough, it worked out in my favor. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. Life is nothing but a series of twists and turns and decisions, right?
Exactly. And sometimes you have to take that leap of faith.
Sure.
Even though there's many rejections, but you have to sometimes just go for it and deal with the consequences. It just would have meant more debt, deeper in the hole, but at least I would have been able to say, you gave it your all.
Sure.
Sure. So faith was what turned me around.
And the rest, they say, is history.
And the rest
worked itself out.
Here I am. Yeah.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
What are you working on? Any new projects coming up now? What are you up to these days?
I am actually, I do work still on a lot of film, TV sets. I have a very old car that often is the star in the scene. So I often will do that. I will bring my car to the set, and they pay very nicely.
Yeah.
For those vintage cars.
Sure.
So that I do that quite a bit right now. I still am very involved in theater. That's my roots in New York. So I still am very active in that regard. So I'm still in it, but I'm not quite going on all the auditions that I used to go on, because the industry has changed, as you know, tremendously. So anyway,
it's a whole new world, man.
It's a whole new world, and either you excuse me. Either you go, okay, let me go along with this, or you just go, no.
Right.
and just without getting into a whole lot of things, I'm one of those people that feels like I don't want to pay for an audition.
I got you. Yep, I got you. Yeah.
And I don't want to have to ask people, come here and film me, because I'm taking time away from that. So those are my feelings that I have, and I'm old school. I know that's a different generation today, but I just have a lot of strong feelings about that.
Fair enough.
So
good stuff.
And I've done very well.
Good. Yeah. Alvin, thank you so much for a few minutes of your time.
You're welcome.
It was a pleasure. Like I always tell everybody, I'm just a fan at heart that gets to do some cool stuff.
Thank you.
Such as speak to people who were a part of my life, really, and part of the movies and the TV shows that I love. So I do appreciate your time.
I appreciate you and telling me that and sharing that.
Awesome. Alvin Alexis, everybody, here at New Jersey HorrorCon and Film Festival. This is the Horror Nerd Todd Staruch signing off. We will see all of you in the next interview.